And N is the noise. It's the baggage. It's those negative stories. It's the pre-programmed beliefs. It's the supposed tos that are weighing you down, all that noise. And then you're able to reflect on it over some time. You're going to start seeing little light.
Welcome back to Mirror Talk Soulful Conversations. Today, I'm honored to be joined by a woman whose life is a living testimony of resilience, transformation, and wisdom. She began breaking barriers early as one of the first female computer sales rep in the world in her 20s. She went on to become an award-winning entrepreneur, and when retirement didn't sit well with her, she boldly founded the global team of local initiatives and moved to Ethiopia, where her efforts have impacted more than 100,000 lives. In her 70s, she continues to shine a light as an author, humanitarian, and guide, sharing her TREAM dream framework in her book, The Magic of Yes. Embrace the wise woman within. Welcome to the show, Lori. How are you doing?
Thanks, Tobi. I'm doing fabulous. Great to be here.
I'm so happy that you made it to the show today, all the way from California. So much. I hope you're enjoying the beautiful afternoon right now in California.
It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous day.
It's a gorgeous day. That's awesome. So, before we go into all the questions I have to ask you, to talk about, being the first female computer sales rep, I would like us to play a game of Wildcards just to get to know you in a fun way. I'm shuffling the first stack of cards right now underneath the table, so you might not be seen, but trust me, I'm shuffling the cards.
Okay. No ace up your sleeve, are you, Tobi?
No, I'm not doing that. No,
Okay.
ace up my sleeve.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Then I'm randomly picking a card and I ask you the question that comes up. Okay. So this is from the level 1 icebreakers card. It says, what would you honestly rate yourself as a person from 1 to 10 and why?
How would I rate myself?
Yes.
Well, you know what? I'd rate myself as a 10.
Oh, wow. Why?
I would. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm really aligned. Because I know what my values are. I've examined and discarded some of my pre-programmed beliefs. So what my moral compass is mine. I'm the one that has chosen what my true north is. And my life is aligned with that now. Now, if you had asked me this 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I wouldn't be so sure I was a 10. But yeah, I'm a 10. I am.
I love that. That answer gives me so much hope because I'm still working on myself. So I hope one day I will become a 10 also, but I'm very, very far away from that at the moment.
Yeah, but you're also a long ways from being 76 years old.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so there we go.
That's a very long journey, and I'm looking forward to learning all of that from you, like alignment. You mentioned that. We'll talk more about that in the course of the conversation. Okay. Yes. Are you ready for the next question?
I am ready for the next one.
Yes. So the question is, what is something meaningful to you but not to others? Something meaningful to you.
Well, I would say now what is really meaningful to me, and it certainly is to some others, but probably not. There's an awful lot of people that are still striving to have it be more meaningful. So my answer is I am very comfortable with being, not what I do, but who I am, who I intrinsically am. So I now have learned that my being is what I want to have define me, not what I'm able to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's not about the titles that you have. It's not about what you've accumulated.
Right. So it's not that I don't want to be defined as, oh, that lady that was one of the first to sell computers, or that retired at 49, or that helped hundreds of thousands of people. I want to be defined by who I am, how I access my wisdom, how I share my wisdom, and how I live my life.
I love that. That's very deep. Yeah. Who you truly are. Yeah, your true compass, your true self.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yes. Thanks so much for that.
Okay, so now you're going to go into the deep.
Yeah, I'm going to exactly. You're going to level 3 into the deep.
Okay, let's see.
And the question I pulled up or pulled out is, are you holding on to something you need to let go of?
Boy, am I holding on to something I need to let go of? Absolutely. It's
What's
being
that?
impatient. I have tried all my life to become more patient with others that maybe don't have the same gifts that I have, or don't process at the same speed, or haven't had the breadth of experience. And so they don't understand the context. And I struggle with being impatient. And I would love to be more patient. I would. I would definitely love to be more patient.
Are there like some things you're doing, to become more patient, or are there like some practices that you put in place to help you be
But
more patient?
one of the things, and it's interesting how you do pick up things from books, whether they're self-help books or novels or whatever. One of my favorite little sayings that detective story writer uses, Louise Penny. Have you ever read any of her books?
Not yet, no.
Not yet. Anyway, so her main character will say these three little words or sentences. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?
Okay.
And that helps me. That helps me become more patient, or to just move on and let it go and realize, well, if I say something, am I being kind? And more importantly, is it really necessary for me to weigh in on this topic or that topic? A lot of times it's not necessary. It's just a matter of letting the other person express themselves, acknowledge that they have these feelings or they have these concerns. And I don't have to fix anything. I don't have to become impatient about anything, because it really isn't necessary. So it's just those little tricks,
Yeah.
sometimes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that with me and make use of it also.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
necessary, so I just let go of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. I'm learning from you already, Lori. Thank you so much for answering those questions. Thank you so much for going
Fun.
through our podcast questions. So I know when you answered the second question, you talked about, you not being described, or, with what you've achieved, like being the first female computer sales rep
Mm,
and whatnot. Well, I still want us to talk about that, if that's okay with you.
sure.
I mean, you were among the very first female computer sales rep in the world. And looking back, what did that experience teach you about courage, resilience, and navigating spaces where you were not always expected to succeed as a woman in that world?
Well, you know what? This is going to come as a surprise. I realized right in the beginning that it was a real advantage,
Hmm.
because I was odd. I was I was different. So when we would cold call to get, I mean, this was back in the 70s, so before you were born. And in those days, selling computers was a very different thing than what it is today. I mean, it was a huge investment. It was very scary to prospects. It was something that was, back when I sold systems, only huge companies could afford them. So then as technology became cheaper, then smaller companies could, but it was still scary. It was the unknown. There were a lot of fears and all of that. And so we would do a lot of cold calling, and I would get appointments all the time. And really, it was because the men, I mean, the business owners, and I sold into the manufacturing arena mostly, were men. And they were just curious, who was this broad? I mean, why would she think she can tell me how to run my business? And oh well, I'm kind of bored. Sure, she can come, and I'll put her in her place, or I'll flirt a bit or whatever. So I got appointments easy, and I knew my stuff, so they would end up buying.
Hmm.
And the men didn't like it. I had more trouble with my peer group than I did with the customer base. So that was interesting, and that got all kinds of stories in my books about that. But it really was an advantage, and I think the fact that I was different made it easier for me.
I love what you said about knowing your stuff. Like, it's very important to know your stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's important to me to know what I'm talking about. I mean, I'm not a BSer. And I truly understood how what I was selling would make my customer's life easier. And I wouldn't sell something I didn't believe in. Just like, no, I mean, I wouldn't be on podcasts unless I really believed that what my message is will help other people, because that's kind of who I am.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. So I'd like to also, go a bit deeper into that and ask you about how you were able to build up your confidence, even though, you said with the customer base, you had no issues, but with your colleagues, I don't know how you were able to build up your confidence when among them. I don't know if they maybe make fun of you, try to pull you down. How are you able to still remain confident and do your work?
Well, so you're talking back when I sold computers?
Yes, yes.
Well, the thing of it is, Toby, the branch manager that hired me was the manager of the worst branch in the United States at the time. And he realized, very smart guy, and he decided that one way he could motivate the male sales force is if he hired a woman that got ahead of them, and then that would motivate them to sell more and to work harder and to do what she did. And that's why I got the job. He hired me because I was different. And so then when the men did some things that weren't appropriate, or the sales secretary who would refuse to type my proposals because she didn't want to work for a woman, my boss would change their attitudes. He'd let them know, hey, you either support Lori or you're going to leave. So, yeah, I had the backing of management because within 2 years we were the number one in the country. His strategy worked.
That's good.
So I was lucky. I've oftentimes been lucky. I worked for a really smart guy. He got it. I made him money. I helped him raise his prestige, gain more recognition. And there's one little lesson that probably would be a good thing to share right now. One of the concepts that I learned early in my career was understanding the power of WIFM. Do you know what WIFM is? It's an acronym for what's in it for me. And the me is not me. The me is who I'm talking to or who I'm interfacing with, who my customer is or my employee or my neighbor. That's the me. So what's in it for them, really? So when you concentrate on the other person's perspective, how do you make them win? How do you help them understand? How do you show them the benefit? Then you become much more convincing and compelling in your messaging. So I learned that very, very early. And that has served me really well. And that's one thing that I really work on trying to teach others is it's so important to understand other people's perspectives, their culture, their context, where they're coming from, so you can stand in their shoes.
Hmm.
And then that just provides a whole world of opportunity, of learning and sharing and so forth.
I'm smiling right now because you just shine some light on some things for me. Like, to be successful, you have to place yourself in the shoes of your customers, of your clients, basically, and
Mm-hmm.
ask yourself, what is in it for me?
Right.
Me being
And the me is them.
them. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that way you know how to serve them better, how to provide the service that will solve their problems and be a solution
Right.
to their problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why even before we started our conversation, I wanted to know who is your listener
Hmm.
and what is it that they're seeking? Why do they turn your podcast on and not the other person?
Hmm.
And you said, well, they're really looking for purpose, for alignment, to feel fulfilled. And I get that. That's great. That's absolutely my sweet spot
Yeah.
because that's what I want to help people do.
Exactly. And that's why you're on this episode right now to talk about purpose. When preparing for this conversation, I found out that, from reading your story, reading about everything that you've achieved, I was like, okay, this is the American dream, being
Right.
successful. But yet you found yourself unfulfilled. So
right.
I'd like to learn from that season of your life. Like, what did life teach you about success versus true purpose when feeling unfulfilled?
Well, when you know, I started my for-profit business, which was a high-tech company selling into manufacturing. See, I must have been in my early 30s, and I sold it when I was 49. Now, I started when I was a single mom, two little girls, didn't have any money, but I knew the market niche I wanted, and I was at the right place at the right time with the right skill set. I was lucky and worked a lot. So so that is the American dream, right? That's the stories that we're told
Mm,
is you start with nothing, you create something, you retire, you've got everything. Well, number one, once when I retired, it was like, oh God, is that all there is? Is that all there is? You know, so I've got money, I don't have to work, but I don't feel fulfilled and I don't feel like I really have purpose. I tried to volunteer and I found out very quickly that I'm a real lousy follower. I don't know how to follow. I mean, all I know how is to be the boss. And so it didn't work for me to be in meetings and this and that. And then I tried to garden and to golf and to do all that stuff and um and traveled. But when I was traveling, and it was really on a really, really hot, hot day, I was in the middle of the Sahara Desert in Niger, and a little girl came up to me, and she had flies on her face. And that little girl was the same age as my granddaughter, Ella, at the time, probably about 6, 7 years old. And you know what that little girl wanted? All she wanted was my water bottle.
oh,
All she wanted was my water bottle because money wouldn't do her any good. I mean, she didn't even know what money was. But water bottle, that means you have a chance to live. You have a chance. And that haunted me. And I started really thinking about it. And I started asking myself, what if I did something to help these little kids have water? What if I could do something that would help get the flies off their eyes?
mm,
Could I actually figure this out? And being rather arrogant and so forth, I thought, well, sure, I'm a successful American entrepreneur. I can do whatever put my mind to it. Well, you know, it was a whole lot harder than that. But we got it done. You know, I started a nonprofit, moved to Ethiopia, worked with the most marginalized people in the world, built a team, and we started implementing water projects in education and environment and schools. I mean, all kinds of things. But at night, when I'd get home, and I'd be all ready to have a glass of wine and read a book, and then there'd be no electricity. So I was forced, the only thing I could do was think. And this little girl kept haunting me. And I started thinking back on her struggles, and I thought about my struggles. And I started realizing that struggles and challenges really are the keys to finding our wisdom.
mm.
And that's really what put me on the path then for my next career, even though I wasn't done with that one. And I'm so thankful for those opportunities. I'm so thankful for not being able to do anything other than think, because reflection is so key to accessing our wisdom.
Yeah, that's so deep. Wow. I mean, struggles and challenges are keys to find wisdom.
They really are. They really, truly are. And you know what? You survived them. You're
Hmm.
standing there. You're resilient. You got through it. So, what was it about that struggle that you were able to overcome? Was it a fear that was causing your struggle that you had to deal with? Was it some pre programmed belief? Was it a supposed to that you felt you were obligated to do? What was it that you overcame and allowed you to overcome? And that then starts becoming the fuel that allows you to change and to grow.
Yes. But You mentioned something that I would like to go back to. I mean, for us to be able to find wisdom from all the struggles and challenges that we experienced, you talked about reflecting. So from your opinion or from your experience, is this like a very vital thing for us to gain wisdom from all the painful things we've experienced?
We can, absolutely. And one of the real key components, however, is you take what you know. Give me a struggle, an example of a struggle.
Let's say struggling to pay school fees, for example.
Okay. School fees. So we're struggling to pay school fees, and we have really quite a bit of information, right? I mean, we know how much it is, we know what we need to pay, and we have a lot of fear because we're really afraid we're not going to be able to do that. And how are we ever going to get ahead if we've got this debt that is chasing us and so forth?
Hmm.
And then there's probably stories that you've heard of people that haven't been able to, or where they've gotten themselves mired down, or they've gotten stuck into some job that to just try to pay the school fees and never been able to really use the education that created the school fees. And I would say that a lot of those stories really become noise. It's just like extra baggage you're carrying. And I have a little formula for accessing your wisdom, and it's very, very simple. And it really is if you've got information, so we say that's an I minus N, and N is the noise, it's the baggage, it's those negative stories, it's the pre programmed beliefs, it's the supposed to's that are weighing you down, all that noise. And then you're able to reflect on it over some time, you're going to start seeing little lights. And that's why I put together my dream framework on how do you get so you see those lights, and then how do you put that wisdom into action? Because maybe I've accessed it, but what the hell do I do with it, right? I mean, I don't know what to do with it. And you need a plan and or some methodology or some framework to follow.
Yeah.
And that's where we get into the dream framework.
Yes. I love what Dream Framework stands for. Like desire, reflect, explore, acknowledge, mantra.
Very good. You got an A.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm super excited to learn about this already. Like, can you walk us through its essence? Like walk us through each pillar of the framework, its essence, and how we could start to embrace it in our own lives.
Right. So let's just take it really easy. So, as you said, it's an acronym for D is for desire. To put it really simply, what is it that you want? Not what you're supposed to want, but what is it that you want or you need? Okay. Then we look at R is for reflect. Okay. Well, so what do you know? What have you learned so far? What have been your experiences? And then E is explore. Well, what else is there to know that might help you, that might support you, might give you more information? And, these days, that's an easy one to fulfill because we've got internet, we've got AI, we've got so much access, right?
Yes.
We just have to ask the questions, and there's all kinds of information that'll pop up. And then acknowledge. I really love A as acknowledge because, for one thing, acknowledge you're here. You've got courage, you've got curiosity. And that's the real key. You have curiosity because you're going through this framework. If you were somebody that didn't have curiosity, you'd have been turned off by now. And the other part of acknowledge is you're going to make mistakes. That's a good thing. I mean, you want to make a lot of little mistakes because if you're making a lot of little mistakes, it means that you're trying a lot of different things and you're quick to say, that didn't work. Let's try the next one. That's a sign of maturity to be able to make a lot of mistakes. And then the other thing to acknowledge is, at times life can really suck. I mean, it really bad stuff happens. It does. But that's being a human. We have to realize this. We're not a victim. It's being a human. And then M is for mantra. And I've gotten to just love mantra. It's a founding, something that helps ground you and encourage you and support you on your journey, whether it be a little song, a little saying, a little phrase. It's just a mantra. And so what readers are telling me is that when they go through the dream framework, they really are able to say yes, experience yes, and embrace their wisdom inside of them. And it doesn't matter if they're men or women. I mean, every single human being alive has kernels of wisdom in us, and it's our choice. Every single one of us have a choice if we want to access it, if we want to activate it, if we want to, if what we really want is to be in alignment, there's things we can do to make sure we're in alignment.
Yeah.
And we don't need money, and we don't need to live in sunny California. I mean, I've known people that are some of the most marginalized people in the world and that struggle to stay alive, but they live in alignment and they're at peace, and they're at peace and they have joy.
Yes. I mean, thank you so much for explaining that. That means, if I understand you correctly, if I'm able to desire to be truly what I'm supposed to be, I mean, who I am and not who I should be or whatnot, I'm able to reflect, explore, ask questions, have all the resources I need. I have, to find out what I want to do, and also acknowledge that life is not perfect, acknowledge that I'm human, I'm allowed to make mistakes, and also having those mantras. With that, I'll be able to become a truly joyful person and become who I'm supposed to be. I'll be able to live a life of alignment and my true purpose also. Yeah.
And when you're living a life in alignment, and when I talk about alignment, I'm I'm talking about your environment as well. And by that I mean, especially here in the US, I mean, you turn on the radio here or the TV or news, I mean, and it doesn't feel very good. There's a lot of bad stuff happening in the world, and we can choose, how do we spend our time? What do we take in? How do we deal with what we take in? How do we deal with the angry person that lives next door, or somebody in our household that is disruptive, or and so it really means being in alignment with what we do, what we say, what we take in, how we surround ourselves. And the one thing that's really wonderful is that we all have the ability to pick up a stone or a rock, hold it in our hand, and get the grounding of the earth in a very simple way, and even if we live in the middle of a city, we can find a little stone. We can go to a park. And all of that helps us get in alignment. And I also happen to be a big fan of mindfulness and meditation and so forth. But, we have a limited amount of time.
That's true. Oh, yes. So, I mean, it's important for us to be aligned with everything, basically our spiritual and
Right.
body, our environment also. Yes. And
Right.
take put into, as in, be mindful. Meditation is also important also for that. And speaking positive words of affirmation to our lives is very important. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. So
Right.
your book, The Magic of Yes, introduces this framework. I just want you
Right.
to tell listeners out there, once they pick up the book, what you expect them, not expect them, but what you hope that they get from the book.
Well, so my book, the backbone, the framework of the book basically follows the arc of my story. Um, and for example, the first chapter is winning with the cards. Say yes to winning with the cards you were dealt. And, all of us are dealt different cards. And some of us have easy childhoods, some of us have very challenging childhoods. But it's up to us to build the life that we want to have. And so we go through a series of things basically to say yes to. And for example, in the first part, it's all about discovering your essence. And there we really examine, okay, how do we win with the cards we were dealt? How do we say no and set boundaries? How do we forgive ourselves and forgive others? And how do we really become that curious entrepreneur of our life? And then we go into a section about navigating chaos, because we all have chaos. And especially as we reach middle age, the chaos can become very extreme because everybody's taking a bite out of you. Young people, old people, bosses,
Yeah.
customers, everybody. I mean, there's just a lot of tension.
Mm,
How do we navigate that?
mm,
And how do we turn that into a strength and a real growing time? and find peace in that. And then we really look at, okay, so then we come into a stage of how do we become unfettered and free? How do we set ourselves free? And what does that look like? What does that mean? How do we define our own supposed tos, create our own moral compass? How do we learn to ask for help? And that's a tough one for a lot of us. And then we go into the stage of, well, how do we really find peace? And what does that look like? Not something squishy, but how do we actually find peace? How do we learn to really embrace love and life? And how do we learn to recognize the wisdom inside of us? And what are the steps to do that? And so that's why every one of these chapters has a sample dream framework, something that can give a guideline of how would one go about doing something like this. Not that it has to be exactly like the dream in the book, but how would that fit for you? So I have to say, Toby, I'm really proud of it. I am. It worked. It's standing up. It's got legs.
It's running.
And yeah, it's running, and I'm hearing all the time from people that say, "Well, oh, you wrote it for me," and I'm
Hmm.
like, "Yeah." So
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thanks so much for putting that out to the world. To the world to read, to, really say yes to the life that they deserve for themselves by, desiring it, reflecting on it, exploring what they have to do, acknowledging, and then having the mantras for that. That's really beautiful.
that's great. I love that you know it. Thank you.
It's ringing in my head and it's embedded already.
Good.
Yes, yes. And talking about saying yes and the magic of yes, you said love. You said love. You said yes to love. At the age of 67, you met the love of your life online.
Online.
Yes, yeah. And you talked about this also. When you talked about teaching about love, vulnerability, and the beauty of finding connection later in life. So I'd like you
Right.
to talk to us about this. Like, how is that like for you, finding love at 67? All of that connection, vulnerability.
Right. It's pretty amazing. This will probably put it into perspective because I had been married two other times, and once for 11 years and the other for 25 years. And I finally was single again, living in Ethiopia and so enjoying life on my own. And one of my daughters said, "Well, Mom, why don't you go online dating and just see what's out there?" And I thought, oh my God, I just do not want to do this again. I am not interested. I don't want anybody mucking up my life. And I was more than anything, I was afraid that I would fall back into my old behaviors. And so I dabbled online a little bit, but quite frankly, I wasn't getting very many hits because here I was. I said I was living in Ethiopia. My profile picture was me in a baseball hat with two indigenous women hugging me with mud in their hair and very, very black. And I was very, very white. And then pictures of me with little black babies from my orphanage. And quite face it, a lot of men in my age group didn't really find that compelling. They were kind of looking for the little woman that would ease their later years.
Mm.
So it didn't take me long, and I thought, oh, yuck, I'm not interested. But one day I was on leave, and my granddaughter was over, and my daughter said, "Well, let's go find Ella a grandpa." And I thought, oh, all right. Well, and then Bill Butcher pops up. And he's an old campaign manager, very successful. And when he saw those pictures, he thought, wow, this is the woman for me.
Mm.
And I became his campaign. And he's used to winning. So, but the first time we got together, I said to him, now don't you dare expect me to marry you. There is just no way. I am not interested.
Why?
And he said, okay, so let's just be unfettered and free together. That's a good line, Toby. You gotta remember that. And
Yes. Taking notes right now.
and I thought, okay, that's fine as long as I'm unfettered and free. I'm okay hanging out a bit.
Mm.
And then it just became really obvious that, especially in our culture here in the States, at this age, it's a lot easier being married than not. Our medical system is set up for it, society's set up for it, and so forth. And so we ended up getting married.
Wow.
And it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful because he understands the essence of me and I understand him. And neither one of us are trying to change the other
Yeah.
at all. First of all, we're way too old. It just would not happen. But when you're in a relationship and you can just enjoy the essence of the other individual and not have an expectation. You're not needy. By the time Bill and I got together, neither of us really were needy.
Mm,
We were very solid on our own. And so what we have together is just bonus books. It's just bonus.
yeah. That's how it's supposed to be, right? I mean,
Yeah. But it's very difficult. It's very difficult when you're young, and it's because we have so much baggage,
mhm.
and so oftentimes we get into relationships and both of us have baggage and stuff doesn't match and you grow differently. And, so for me, divorce was a good thing.
I mean, like you said earlier, we learn from our experiences in life. The struggles and
Right.
challenges helps us to find wisdom.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that,
absolutely.
so the struggle of, experiencing the divorce first time, second time, I believe helps you to find wisdom for what you're enjoying right now.
Exactly. And also, you know, when I wrote about this in my book, it helped me really understand that I married my first two husbands because of need.
Hmm.
I had a need that I was looking to have fulfilled.
What's that?
On Well, when I married my first husband, I came from a very, very difficult childhood and I needed somebody to love me. I needed to feel love, and he gave me that. We weren't well matched, so it wasn't sustainable, but he gave me that. And then when I married my second husband, I think I had just had a baby, not being married. And to me, that was like, no, I'm not a very good role model for my girls, and so I was still struggling with my supposed tos. And he gave me that legitimacy that, oh, you're acceptable, it's good. And so that was a need that was fulfilled.
Hmm.
Whereas when I met Bill, I didn't, I already was, I knew who I was. I had dropped the majority of my emotional baggage and I didn't need a partner. In fact, I really enjoyed being alone. But once I experienced being with him, it was fun. So it was all, you know what I
Yes.
mean?
I understand what you
You
mean.
know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So it wasn't that I had some hole that needed to be plugged.
Yeah.
It was truly added value and more enjoyment, that it was more fun to be sharing a meal with somebody that was an interesting conversationalist versus me sitting alone. It was fun to go for a drive and be able to share the beauty of the scenery,
Hmm.
so it's a whole different dynamic.
Yes. Yeah. I think I mean I believe I understand what you're saying because once you're with someone that adds value to you and is not filling you or filling a gap in your life, you're able to express yourself as who you truly are to the person. And you don't have to
Exactly.
want to hide anything, please the person. You don't want to change yourself just to be, good in front of the person. And
Yeah, you're not worried about being acceptable.
yes, yes.
And I think that's really the big thing, is that that you are enough.
Mm,
That you're not shrinking to fit into some other mold.
exactly.
You're enough. You're really good.
Yeah.
And you're really lucky to be together. It's good stuff. It's not filling a hole. It's not trying to make up for. It's not trying to shrink you, not trying to say, oh, okay, I'm acceptable because I'm with this person. Now, another person doesn't make you acceptable.
True. Preach,
It's up to
preach.
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing that. I've learned so much from you. I'm learning so much from our conversation. But if you could leave our listeners with one practice, one reflection, or just one mantra to help them say yes to their life and embrace their inner wisdom, what would it be?
I think where I would start is every day look at something outside and notice it. Just notice it. And in your mind, say, I'm going to meet this moment fully. I'm going to meet this moment with ease. Because everything really starts with being present. So I often find that just looking at a leaf in a tree or a flower along the roadside or even a weed, but just look at it and just think about that for a moment and say to yourself, I'm going to meet this moment fully. I'm going to meet this moment with ease. And I think that's a great place to start.
I'm going to meet this moment fully. I'm going to meet this moment with ease. Yes. Wow. Thank you so much, Lori. I really appreciate speaking with you. I know your book is out there on sale for people to pick up already. And I just want you to tell us how we could connect with you, how we could work with you, how we could get more, resources from you also.
Okay, really, it all starts with my website, and that's just loripappas.com. And I'm sure you'll have that in the show notes.
Yes.
And on there, I've got a newsletter that I put out regularly that talks about the past, gives you a glimpse of other people's lives, how they found inner wisdom, and that's a free subscription. I have a Facebook group, and I've got connects. I've got download dreams. You can like to invite you to download a dream of your choice, and there's no strings attached. You go to my website, click on dream, and choose the dream that resonates with you.
Awesome. That sounds great. I'm going to place the link to your website in the show notes of the episode again. And I encourage everyone out there to just click on the link, copy the link, and make use of all the resources out there to start living a true life of purpose and alignment and joy and enjoying the magic of yes, your everyday life. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Tobi.
Thank you so much, Lori. I appreciate this.
Thank you very much.